Welcome back to the table. We're back with some news. Yeah. I'm back at the table.
Oh, that's true.
It's been a minute since I've been here.
It's been a couple weeks. This is our first piece we filmed, at least, since you've been back.
Gonna kick off the rust, see if I didn't forget how to do this. But we've got some news for you today, and it is about the fact that they've announced, and by they I mean Blizzard Entertainment and Glass Cannon Unplugged, have announced a Diablo board game. Yeah. Not only that, but a Diablo tabletop RPG.
It's exciting. I mean, I've been a fan of Diablo pretty much my entire life. I mean, I have childhood memories playing Diablo 1, but Diablo 2 sucked up so much of my time.
Diablo 2?
Diablo 2.
Yeah, I've played a lot of them, and we'll get to this in a second, but there's actually a survey on their website asking a lot of questions, one of which is, what was your experience with the franchise? And then what would you like to see in these games? But I played the least of 1, a little bit of 2, a lot of 3, and mostly 4.
I think that's not the common response.
No. I mean, I think
which is interesting to me.
As gamers have gotten more and more jaded, they long for the old days. We're like, why isn't this like Diablo? I liked all of the newer ones quite a bit, but I'm also not like a diehard. So I played Diablo 4 through the story, and then I'm done.
I played 4 the least. I played 2 the most and 3 the second most. But the fact that we're even having this conversation is interesting. And the reason this kind of breaks down, for me, when I hear Diablo, it's difficult to pinpoint one exact thing. Because Diablo 2, 3, and 4, the last 3 big ones, have felt different in a lot of ways. And I feel like the franchise has kind of evolved from like a loot management system to like a full-on almost action RPG. And so I don't know what tone they're going for with this board game. Like, is this more old school Diablo, where it's more about managing an inventory like we saw in Sanctum, which was something that was kind of inspired by Diablo?
Yes.
Or is this going to be like Zombicide level, where there's just things rushing at you and you're just killing things left and right? Like, I don't know which way they're going to go with this.
And these are all very good questions, and these are all questions they're asking right now, which leads me to say the following thing. One, the news portion of this video is just about over because we shared the news that we have.
It's coming.
Don't turn it off, but we've got more speculation to talk about. But the news is that they've announced this. Other than that, the details are sparse to say the least. And to that end, like I said, they've asked a lot of questions on their website, kind of like what you'd be looking for. And now the survey, and we both took it, it largely seems to focus on the tabletop RPG.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't really reference the board game that much. And even their own just one-page web page for this announcement also seems to focus a little bit on the RPG in the sparse details that they give, which leads me to wonder whether or not they're designing and developing that first and foremost, which isn't really their thing because they've mostly done board games.
They only have done board games.
With Glass Cannon Unplugged, they've done some board games very recently, really. They're kind of new to the scene.
They're very new to the scene.
But they did Frostpunk, which has delivered. It's been out there. I haven't played it, but I've heard mostly good things about Frostpunk.
Yeah, and as a big fan of Frostpunk, and I've talked to a lot of people who are also big fans of Frostpunk, that it really does nail the theme of Frostpunk of like, it's a punishing survival game.
It's punishing.
Where you're trying to survive this desolate climate and build a city. And so that's the only one that they've done that's actually released, but it's got very positive, not just reviews, but also, I don't know how to word this, it feels very thematic and very intentional in the design.
It seems like they've connected it well to the IP. I don't know if the same goes for Apex. Like we said, that's not out. Apex also...
You're thinking of Dying Light, which is the zombie one, where, again, I haven't played that one yet, but even from looking at it and seeing what that game is, it puts you in a city and you're running and these zombies are chasing you, which is another video game. So I guess what we're getting at, they've done a lot of video game work. They seem to be very passionate about video games.
It seems like it's their thing.
So I can imagine that Diablo's in good hands. If you're looking for a studio to partner with who does board games based on video games that's got at least a pretty good track record, I'm pretty happy. Maybe they could have gotten Awakened Realms, but this is maybe the next best thing.
Well, I also know Diablo, or not Diablo, but Blizzard is generally pretty picky about their licensees that they work with. So I assumed they've given it some consideration as well. And it sounds like they're working very closely hand in hand with them developing it. So we'll have to see what it looks like. But some of the questions they asked sounded very much like they're in early days of development.
At least for the role-playing game.
At least for the role-playing game, but you'd think they would have had maybe some more details on the board game.
You know, I mean, it is Blizzard, so it's very possible that we've seen some issues already in the board game industry of people releasing IP stuff too early and getting in trouble. So I think for them, I think it's better safe than sorry as far as like, let's not talk at all about this until Blizzard can approve. You know, when it comes to releasing images or even gameplay, there's a huge approval process for what can be talked about.
True.
I don't know what the situation was. I don't know if this was like Blizzard watching their successes and saying, well, hey, how about a Diablo? Or if they came with a pitch and said, here's what we've got. This feels like a Diablo game, and Blizzard, signed off on it. I don't know which way that went. I don't know.
If I had to guess, and this is a pure guess.
It's all guesses.
I would think that Glass Cannon probably approached them. And that would speak, if that's the case, then it sounds like they probably did have a good idea because it piqued Blizzard's interest. Because I'm sure a lot of people have come to Blizzard over the years asking for this.
Sanctum from CG feels like it was, I don't know if that was ever pitched to Blizzard, but it definitely feels like a love letter to Diablo. So, and I know people have been dying for years. We've had role-playing games that were Diablo-inspired, that were not official. And as far as that goes, and I do want to talk about seeing from the inside of these things, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of these things, like they maybe come with a board game. Blizzard likes working with them. They decide they're going to do this board game. They sign a contract, and then they realize, oh, this contract actually comes with the role-playing game rights. So that could have been a thing where they're like, well, actually...
possible. Making the most of it?
Right. Like, now that we think about it, or like they're deep in the board game and like, you know what, like they're doing narrative or whatever, and they're like, this would be a really cool role play. Like, that happens a lot. And then you decide, well, we're going to do this RPG as well. So it's very possible that they haven't even started development on the role-playing game yet. Just kind of they want to see what people want out of it before they go down any one lane.
It also makes me wonder, though, if... like I said earlier, they're being developed such that the board game kind of gives that sort of more mainstream experience if you don't want to do a full RPG.
Yeah, it could be that way.
They're both going to have to embrace a lot of the same elements. A lot of the questions they were asking were very general about, like, what is it that you take away from Diablo? Like, do you want, like, is it the good versus evil? Is it the heaven versus hell?
I'll tell you what it is. It's loot.
Wait, that's
it. That's what I put on my survey.
That's what I put on my survey too.
In giant capital letters.
I almost put loot, because it reminded me of our experience playing Massive Darkness 2.
Yeah, and
it feeling very Diablo-esque because of the massive amounts of loot that you get in that game, which I think is it's not what defines Diablo, but it is a big defining characteristic.
And I might be in the minority here because I'm a D&D player who likes to play D&D to fight. I like RPGs that are super specialized. I don't necessarily want a heavily narrative role-playing game that's set in Diablo. When I think of Diablo, I'm like, give me ways to just kill massive amounts of enemies. Give me ways to just constantly be getting new loot. There was a Borderlands role-playing game that came out not too long ago that had a deck of loot cards, and you were just getting new guns all the time. That's just kind of what I want to see. So if you're listening, Glass Cannon Unplugged, put a bunch of loot in the game, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I'm sure it will have loot. One of the things you just mentioned that I think they are going to try to embrace, they've talked about combat and how they're not embracing a D&D 5e
right,
system.
They have said that it's not going to be D&D 5e.
It's their own system, and one of the things that I think is going to be important, or at least it sounds like they've communicated that it's important to them in that system, is the ability to combat with hordes of monsters and things like that. So it's not going to be like one at a time.
Like D&D where you're like 5 against one guy. No, you're
it's going to be
hordes,
massive amounts, which it has to be for Diablo. You have to give that experience where you're just like mowing down massive amounts. So that will be an interesting thing to see how they develop that in an RPG system and even on a tabletop system, because I'm guessing that means that there's going to be, it's not like you're going to put 100 miniatures on the board.
No, you're not. No, that would be there's going to be some way of abstracting that.
Yeah.
But the real important thing to me is that it comes with an app or a soundboard so I can press the button every time loot drops, because you just start hearing that noise that's so iconic to Diablo.
To be clear, this game does not come with an app or a soundboard.
Well, we don't know it doesn't come with an app. Actually, speculating, that would be kind of cool if you had a full-on app with the music and the sound effects, Deckard Cain narrating your story experience.
I can tell a lot of people in the comments already after you said that, they're like, well, if it's going to come with an app that's going to be close to the video game, why not just play the video game?
Now I see people are saying, there's an app, I'm not even going to buy it.
Exactly.
We're speculating and people already said, no. I would actually, I'm a fan of apps, so I think if they did something like that integrated music and sound effects into a Diablo game, that for me would be the sweet spot. But no, I know that's not for everybody.
Yeah. And we'll see if this game is for everybody or not. They've actually said that they want to release it at next BlizzCon.
Yeah, well,
next year. A year from right now.
I mean, that must mean that the board game at least is pretty far on.
It better be.
Yeah.
Because I don't know when, they've not announced exactly when their crowdfunding campaign is going to be, but I would assume it's going to be maybe in the first quarter.
Wait, do we even know it's going to crowdfunding?
Yeah, they announced
they did say that.
There's going to be a campaign, but they haven't announced when that is, but they've announced when they want to deliver the game, which sounds kind of crazy because that is a very short amount of time.
It must be close
honestly,
to being
if they wanted to deliver a year from now, I would think the game should be being produced right now.
Right. Well, we'll see. I mean, stay tuned for more information because I definitely think this is one that we're going to be covering as we get more info just because we are such big Diablo fans.
If we can get a hold of it, we will certainly get a hold of it. But if you have any more questions about it, or if you have any thoughts on what you would like to see in a Diablo game, make them in the comments below. Or better yet, maybe not better yet, but take the survey yourself.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put the link in the comments.
Go to their website and take that survey. Until next time, of course, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.